Welcome to the channel. My name is Facecast, and in this video, RYL StacyLee and I will rank every troop in our overall legions on our own tier lists. Stacy is one of the most creative, if not the most creative players in the game, and her perspective on troops may help a lot of people, so make sure to pay attention to what she has to say, or I will search the earth until I find you. Before we begin, help a brother out and subscribe to the channel. I post a lot of Art of War content, so don't miss it. Also, like this video, it helps out a lot. And since this channel is not monetized, those likes and subs are like gold to me. This first tier list is my own pre-made tier list. I'll try to quickly go over it so we can just move on and see what Stacy has to say. In the S tier, I placed Frost Archers, Rhinos, and Peltists. Everyone knows about these troops. Frost Archers can freeze the enemy army, Rhinos can distract the enemy, and Peltists can cause havoc and kite the enemy. In the A tier, I have Demons, Witchers, Undead Soldiers, Ice Mages, Ghost Assassins, and Magic Apprentices. I specifically think level 9 Demons are awesome. They can be really good at wiping out an enemy hero. Their AoE attack is also invaluable to your army. Witchers are also a great level 9 troop. They can quickly put up a lot of damage. Undead Soldiers are probably one of the best tanks in the game. The revive skill is really useful. Then we have Ice Mages with the Frost Explosion skill that deals damage to enemies and slows them down. Ghost Assassins and Magic Apprentices are both great backline attackers. Ghost Assassins have more health and attack, so they actually work really good in honor hunting. And Magic Apprentices are kind of special. They don't take damage while they're moving, and the delay they can cause can be very beneficial. In the B tier, I have Golems, Swordsmen, Pilgrims, Soul Hunters, Brawlers, Priest Mages, and Catapults. Everyone knows that Meteor Golems are beefy boys with high attack and a great AoE rock throw skill. These boys can last a long time and cause a lot of damage. I think I might like the Swordsman more than other people do. I find the refraction skill really useful. They deal damage and become immune to damage when their skill activates. Pilgrims kind of have a little bit of a buff. I'm not really sure what to call it, but at level 9 they seem to work really well. And of course everyone uses Pilgrims in honor hunting, unless it's against Cyclops and you're using an all-ranged army. I might be copying Stacy a little bit here with a Soul Hunter, but I have to admit this thing at level 9 looks really nice. It maxes out at 52,500 health and 840 attack. Plus its lifesteal skill can cause a high amount of damage. Then we have Brawler boys who work great in honor hunting. They also work great in the arena. Their withstand skill will create magical shields that reduce damage to friendly troops around them. Priest Mages, I've always kind of liked them but been afraid to admit it. These boys cause a high amount of damage, and their Fireball skill can deal a lot of damage to enemies in front of them. Next we have the Catapult. Everyone knows the Catapult. Its burning oil skill is awesome. People love these boys in the arena. In the C tier, we have the Beastmaster, Witchcraft Totem, Templar Knight, Paladins, Harbinger of Fire, and Ballistas. Beastmasters are like two troops in one. I think once people find a better use for these troops, they might rank higher, but for now I'd rather use Golems and Swordsmen. Next we have the Witchcraft Totem. Their Primal Fear skill is pretty useful. I know a lot of people are kind of hype about the Ogre's recent buff, but I don't think that makes the Ogre better than the Witchcraft Totem. The Witchcraft Totem can repel and just scare enemies, and while the Ogre causes damage to enemies and repels them backwards, I would still use the Witchcraft Totem because it has a little more health and a little more attack. But you know what? As I'm looking at this on paper, the Ogre Warrior is looking really nice. The Templar Knight is like a poor man's Rhino. These bad boys can distract and they're pretty good at it. Paladins are beefy holy tanks with a great skill that shields friendly troops. It looks like Harbingers were recently reworked. They're really powerful now. I really like these guys, especially at level 9. At level 9, these bad boys look awesome in the back line. They work great defending against backline attackers. They're also really fun to watch. Then we have the Crit Master Ballista. I actually really like the Ballista. I might even like it more than the Catapult, but I gotta be fair here and put the Catapult higher because more people use them and Catapults have just shown to be effective. Ballistas just cause so much critical damage and can shoot arrows that penetrate straight through enemies. In the D tier, I have the Voodoo, Fire Mage, Kazi, Ogre Warrior, Inquisitors, Archers, and Cactuses. If you want to know more about the Voodoo doll, I suggest that you watch one of my previous videos. It explains how to use them. These bad boys work really well in honor hunting. I like the Fire Mage. It's a little burst damage mage. I think it's useful. I want to see more people use it. Then we have Kazis who take their own lives for the greater good of your army. These bad boys can cause a good amount of damage and lasting damage. At level 9, the Ogre Warrior is looking really beefy. It has 52,500 health and 682 attack. Plus their heavy bash skill deals damage and repels enemies. I think we're going to see more people using these in the future. Inquisitors are great little DPS troops. They have 831 attack at level 9, and that is quite a lot. Then we have archers, who I still think are great. If you don't have enough Pelts, frost archers, or witchers, I suggest replacing them with archers. These guys can still cause a lot of damage. Level 9 cactuses don't look too bad. I've never really been a fan of cactuses, but they have 805 attack, plus their skill can reflect damage done to them by melee troops. I want to see more people use these. In the E tier, we have Necromancers, Yasha, Viking warriors, bandits, and scholars. Necromancers have always been a meme, but now with the rise of dark heroes and dark troops, it looks like we're going to see a lot more people using them. I think Yasha has a great skill, but their health is just too low. The Viking warrior and the rage skill is really interesting. Although I would like to see it with more health or more defense, and maybe a little higher attack, because then I think it will be a boss. These things used to be really good early on in the game. People use them in the arena, including me, but things change, new troops are added to the game, and these bad boys have moved all the way down to the E tier. Next we have bandits, who are kind of underwhelming. If you don't have anything else, I suggest that you use them. They're not terrible, but they're just underwhelming. Scholars used to be pretty good when they first came out, so I still have love for them even though people hate them. I want to see more people use them. I think that they can be effective. In the F tier, we have infantry, iron guards, bombers, and hell jailers. These are just common troops, and I hate looking at them. This next tier list was provided by RYL StacyLee. Stacy has a lot of important information to share, so I'm going to do my best to read it verbatim. I'd first like to say that ranking these troops is extremely difficult, as I believe they can all be useful in different situations and different tiers of play, so I will do my best to explain why I rank them the way I did. Also, please keep in mind I am ranking all troops primarily as a Selene user, while also trying to keep other heroes in mind, but I'm certainly biased to Selene. First, let's start with the S tier. I'd place Rhino Knights, Frost Archers, Peltist, and Taurus Witchers. While I've personally seen success without some of these troops, it's very difficult to achieve a high ranking without them. While I'm not a fan of Rhino Knights, they are necessarily evil. Without them, your army is likely to fall apart before it even has a chance. Rhino Knights are best placed in the front and used to distract the enemy army with chaos. A win can often come from having the enemy army run off chasing a Rhino Knight. So do I like them? Not really. Do I need them? Yes. Frost Archers. I can't say enough about these little guys. They are great at holding a strong line and freezing the enemy. They also have a leg up over Ice Mages, as they are a 9-load troop, and it's important to keep a balance between army strength and size. I've seen them placed in many positions within a formation with success. My personal favorite is to use them near the back of the form, as they are great at keeping enemy back row attackers from charging forward. Peltists are another S tier troop where you can see success without them, but they'll make your life easier if you have them. Their kiting skill is unique and very useful, but their secondary skill is what confirms they belong in the S tier and not the A tier. These troops tend to have a pack mentality, so if one goes off chasing a Rhino Knight, all of them will. Keep this in mind and use them appropriately. They are also very useful in many positions, but are considered a ranged unit, so consider that when deciding where you want them. Witchers are fairly new to the scene, but they've quickly become a favorite. They are susceptible to being frozen, so they should be protected, but they do a great job at keeping the enemy at bay. This is another one I prefer over other troops, as they are a 9-load unit and help to make sure the army is balanced. Use them like you would a Frost Archer. Now for the A tier. These are other troops I nearly always have in my form that do really well in many situations. Undead Soldiers are like having two troops for one. They have the special ability to revive once, so they are great at handling Kazis, Voodoo Dolls, and being frozen. Ice Mages are another one of my favorite troops as a Selene user. I don't think you can ever have too many of these guys. They have AoE damage and can really wreck the opposing army. On to our back row attackers, which I've placed all in the A tier. I couldn't imagine a successful army without at least some of these next three. Ghost Assassins quickly flash to the back to a form to deal immediate damage. Magic Apprentices are great at arriving fashionably late and are immune to damage while in the air. Demons are a great back row tanker. I use all three of these frequently and in varying quantities. Play around and see what works best. For the B tier, I've placed Harbingers of Fire, Pilgrims, Catapults, Soul Hunters, Brawlers, Priest Mages, and Meteor Golems. I used Harbingers of Fire before the recent buff, but like them even more now. The same thing for Pilgrims. The recent buff makes them a force to be reckoned with, especially in a Selene form. They have the ability to hear nearby troops and heroes, and are great in honor hunting as well. These next few I might get some slack for, but I stand by my rating. First up is Catapults. People have often ranked these as an A tier troop in the past, but when you put Ice Mages up against Catapults, Ice Mages will win every time. Try it. The great thing about this troop is its AoE. Next on my B tier is Soul Hunters. I think these guys are underutilized as back row tankers. I frequently use them in the back row as they love to eat up Ghost Assassins, Magic Apprentices, and Demons. Their secondary lifesteal ability is what makes them a B tier in my mind. They are often one of the last troops left on the battlefield too. Try them, you'll like them. Brawlers are another very versatile troop that can be used in the front or the back. Their secondary ability to trigger a shield makes them very useful in the arena and honor hunting. Priest Mages are another underutilized troop but have great AoE damage. I often use these guys in place of Catapults or Ice Mages, so just play around with them. Try something new. Rounding out what I'm sure is a very controversial B tier is the Meteor Golem. These are the best of the tanks and critical for an Ivan army, but I don't often find myself using them in a Selene army. Their secondary skill of rock throwing has AoE damage that shouldn't be ignored. For the C tier, I have Templar Knights, Cactuses, Sacred Swordsmen, Beastmasters, Paladins, and Ballistas. Templar Knights are a great replacement for Rhino Knights, and a little more predictable. Ivan loves chasing those guys, so put them on the outside corners and watch Ivan turn around and miss his first strike. Cactuses are another one I find myself experimenting with more lately. Their secondary skill is interesting, and useful when I find more people using melee units up front. Make sure to keep them protected, and you might find that you like them too. Sacred Swordsmen used to be all the rage, but I don't see many people using them anymore, myself included. I prefer Meteor Golems or Soul Hunters over these guys, but play with them and you might find you like them. The Beastmaster. This is such a fascinating troop as you get a 2-for-1 deal with the bear. I don't usually use this one either, but I like him and will sometimes use him in place of other tankers. Paladin is next on the C tier. I've used them in my forms, but always end up replacing them with something else like a Pilgrim or Undead Soldier. They are great when first starting out though, and I could see them making a revival, so don't get rid of them. Last up on the C tier is the Ballista. These guys used to always be used for fusion fodder, but good news for anyone who held on to them as they work great as a level 9 troop. They tend to pair better with some heroes than others, so play around with them. For the D tier list, I've included Fire Mages, Archers, Voodoo Dolls, Kazis, Necromancers, Oger Warriors, Inquisitors, and Witchcraft Totems. Fire Mages are another fun troop to play with as many people disregard them, but I've used them successfully in the arena and I think they might be more useful in the future as well. Archers are a great ranged troop, especially as a new player. They work well in honor hunting versus Cyclops as well. I don't find myself using them anymore as I have higher tier troops to replace them with, but as a new player, I would keep a bunch of these guys in your form. Voodoo Dolls are the newest troops and one of my least favorites. They seem to work well at bringing a slightly higher tiered player down, but otherwise I haven't found a place for them in my form. I will say they seem especially damaging to Selene versus other heroes as they ignore her immunity. Kazis are similar to Voodoo Dolls in that they are a suicide troop. This is another one I don't use in a Selene form, but they have their place. Use them to take out Ghost Assassins if you are especially troubled by those guys. The Necromancer, a troop I love, but just can't find a great use for in a higher tiered army, as they die before spawning any skeletons. I used to love these guys when I first started though, and they can make a difference. Keep them protected and keep them spawning. I'd consider pairing them with Brawlers, Paladins, and Pilgrims for maximum effect. Oger Warrior is a fantastic troop at lower levels, but as your army starts to grow up, you'll likely replace them with Meteor Golems or other tankers. I still keep a few handy and have seen people using them in the back corners to keep demons in check, so try it out. Inquisitors can be used in honor hunting and to help fill gaps where you would prefer to have Pelts but just don't have enough. You can obtain this troop from 30 card packs, which means they are kind of rare. For this reason, I don't fuse them because they are hard to replace. Witchcraft Totem has a fun Primal Fear ability, but I just haven't found it helpful. I'm hoping this troop will become more useful in the future, but for now, they are in the D tier. Getting near the bottom of the list in the E tier is Hell Jailer, Viking Warrior, Bandits, and Yasha. I want Hell Jailers to be great, but they're always outperformed by other troops. Viking Warriors become enraged when their health is below 50%, but even an enraged Viking is still a weak Viking. Bandits sometimes still make their way into my forms as they have the ability to act as a ranged unit and then a melee unit. However, their best use is in honor hunting versus the arena. Yasha is a funny little guy who tromps around with a spear, but aside from comedic relief, he just isn't all that great. I recommend replacing him with Ogres or Meteor Golems at first chance. And lastly, the F tier, I have Infantry, Iron Guard, Bomber, and Scholar. All three of these have a place in new forms, but should always be replaced at first chance. The one on the list I still hold out hope for is the Scholar. His secondary repelling skill seems to be useful against Rhino Knights, but I just can't seem to keep him alive. I would hold on to at least some Scholars though, because I think they'll make a comeback to at least the E tier someday. That's all Stacy has to say. I'd like to sincerely thank Stacy for providing her tier list and all this awesome information. It's very much appreciated. And stay tuned for the next tier list, where we'll rank the Stone Golem. Thanks for watching the video. Smash like and subscribe, or Santa knows and you get nothing for Christmas or whatever holiday you celebrate.